Hey, good afternoon everyone, it's Tracking Man 44 here. Another day and we find ourselves back into buzzsaw land. You may, if you watched any of my old videos, you may remember this saw rig here as one that I've got like a 7 or 8 part series of converting it from just a Ford or a Dearborn or a Ferguson style to an actual Category 1 3-point. Well, we tore the tractor up that we ran that. I think I mentioned that the other day. Blew a hole in the radiator, took the fan blade out and the water pump. So it's down for the count. So I hurried up quick and converted this to a standalone saw rig that you actually drive into the ground with pins and hook up a flat belt with the tractor 8, 10, 12 foot away, and then run the flat pulley on the side of the tractor. That's what I've done. I've made this temporary little jig right here. I essentially pulled two linch pins right here, 3-point linch pins right out of these ears right here. And I've got a 11/16 bolt right up here, and I've got an 1/8" bolt down here at the bottom. So you take 2 bolts out right there, and this whole little assembly just falls completely off of this, and it'll go back to being the 3-point Category 1 3-point connection for any of the Category 1 tractors, and then operate off of the right angle drive off the back of those old tractors. I'm explaining to you what I'm doing when you pin these down. A lot of times guys will pin them down and they'll go to walking on them, or they'll move a little bit and they can't keep their belts on, or they have to run them so loose that the belt goes to flipping and a flopping and everything, and consequently your blade doesn't continue spinning at full RPM. It kind of slips in the log a little bit. And so I'm going to show you what my technique is for binding these things down. Hopefully you can see this setup here a little bit better. 1 bolt here, 1 bolt there. I've got the nut welded onto the back, so it's nothing more than a stud. So all you have to keep track of is the actual bolt itself. Once you pop it out, you can thread it back in so you don't lose it. You got to bear in mind, you've got a tractor that weighs 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds possibly, and it's going to be wanting to pull that direction to put tension on the belt. Okay, so this is going to want to be shifting. Consequently, you don't want to drive your pigs in at an angle like this, because the weight of the tractor could just pull this rig right up off of that pin. You want to try to get them, if you can't get them at a little bit of an angle, you at least want them straight up and down if you can't get a bit of an angle. I probably need to elongate these holes just a little bit more so I can get a little bit more of an angle. But for now, it's going to have to go with this. Might have to go get a bigger hammer. That's going to be pretty sturdy. That's in the ground about so far. These back here are just as important, because as you're pulling that away with that tractor, it's going to want to lift that up. So if these are actually straight up and down, you'll lift it right up off the peg if you get it drawn down too close. So you definitely want to get these at an angle here, if at all possible. This will have to go down pretty low, because you don't want to be stepping on it. Should have brought a bigger hammer. This is a blade we just freshened up yesterday on that bell saw. Hit the front surfaces of the teeth just a little bit. Didn't need to change the gullets or anything like that, or grind the gullets any deeper, but we did touch up the front of the teeth. Didn't even have to set it. I checked the set. Still has good set. It's just that the ends were getting daubed off a little bit, and they just need to be freshened up, so to speak. So we're ready for the tractor. We're going to cut up a little bit of this. here on this pulley right here, I'm running just a little bit to the outside of that pulley, but track all the way up to the belt pulley on the tractor, and I'm actually tracking probably 3/4 of an inch to the outside on that pulley up there. But if you look at how the rig is setting, I've got the rig setting level here, and even though I tried kicking out all the debris where the tractor was ultimately going to set, I unfortunately left a little bit of a hump on the uphill side, which sets the tractor cantywampus to the squarely set rig, and that's why it's running off just a little bit. But you know what? That little bit it ran, it didn't want to run off or jump off, so we're going to leave it right there and give it a go. Not too awfully bad for tension. We may find ourselves backing that up a little bit if the blade wants to slip a little bit. If you look down here at our guard, the importance of having this at the correct height is making sure that our belt actually travels inside that guard, and then of course it's got to go out through this section down here. Another thing, talking about pinning this rig down, if you take a look at that little tractor there, it is small, but it's still packing, probably with those cast iron wheel weights and everything, this thing is probably packing 3,400 pounds, no fluid in the tires or anything, and it's actually going downhill, and I've got the weight of the tractor resting against the belt, and then I went ahead and set the brake with that weight on it. And if you can visualize what would happen if you pull harder, it's going to want to raise this end right here. It's going to want to raise it up in the air, pivoting on that, what becomes the pivot point back there, and it would lift this directly off the pins if the pins was put straight in the ground. That's why I put those pins at an angle. The same thing back here, we've got these at an angle because we don't want the backwards motion of the tractor pulling that away to slide it off of the pins that are at an angle opposite of what I got them here. So that's the reason these things are pinned as tightly as they are and as deep as they are into the ground. I've backed in and hooked up flat belts to everything you can think of. We had a 36-inch Holland Brown planer off our sawmill, and we run an 8-inch flat belt on that one. We also filled silo with a 101 Super, and we had at least an 80-foot belt on that, which would be a 160-foot flat belt. It was 8 inches also. We also ran the hammer mill on that. We powered that with Massey Harris 44. So you kind of get a knack for just kind of sighting it and eyeballing it. If you come into any degree of crookedness, this is just going to run right off the pulley, you know, and it just ain't going to work. But these pulleys have a bit of a crown to them, and that kind of wants to make them stay on. Some of the pulleys, like the old fiber pulleys, are actually they're worn down enough to where they're almost perfectly flat. So you got to be really dead on those. This one here, I happened to come up with a metal pulley for the Massey Harris. Fits all the different Massey Harris power takeoffs from probably 1938 or 39 on up to the late 50s, and that's really good because you don't have to take it off all the time, because the fiber, if you leave it out in the weather, is going to swell up and rot out. Then you've got a bit of an issue. But at any rate, we're going to go ahead and cut a couple pieces of wood if I can get a little help. If I can't, doesn't matter, I'm still going to cut a few pieces of wood. thing about it, you can't do without your ear protection whenever you're working with this thing. That thing gets to howling through through those cuts. There's some piercing sounds come off of that thing. We never had earplugs or anything, whenever I was a kid. That's why I can't hear very well now. But at any rate, you can kind of see it's going to work. It's going to work very well, as a matter of fact. I only did a little bit of video of it because, like I say, there's only so much of it you can see it. Plus, I've still got another video of when I actually converted it. I would have a tendency to believe that this is now ready for the son-in-law to come on up here and do me a solid and work on this wood pile a little bit. Let me show y'all a little bit. We just cut that end off right there. That's about 6.5 feet tall. It's about 25 foot long by roughly an average of 5.5 feet tall, thereabouts. So all in all, it's gonna be a good little thing to use. This here is a very good combination. This here is really nice. Really do like it. Unlimited horsepower, as far as what's necessary to go through some of even the bigger pieces. Some of them bigger ones was actually about 8 inches in diameter. Now I can go about 9 inches at the max without having to shift it. 8 inches on down is perfect. And you see we're doing a lot of shorts right now. That's all the tree trimmer shorts. We're only getting 1 cut out of some of them, 2 out of some of them. Whenever we cut trees and stuff ourselves, our branches, we haul them home as long as we can get them. Up to maybe, 7 to 9 foot is a good length to handle, because you get a whole lot less short tail pieces and you get multiple cuts per time that you bend over. And that's the whole point, is conserving your energy and being efficient in what you do. Hope you all enjoyed this. And guess what? My pins never pulled out of the ground, and I know I got 4,000 pounds of pressure on it. There's no doubt about it. So that having been said, this is TractorMan 44, and I am out of here. I think I'm gonna go get some ice cream.